The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Zephys of the Kethmoran Empire stepped forward to address the assembly. Her crystalline form caught the artificial starlight streaming through the massive observation windows, casting rainbow patterns across the polished floor. Behind her, holographic displays showed tactical data that made even the most experienced military commanders shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Honorable delegates," Admiral Zephys began, her voice carrying the weight of recent defeat. "We must discuss the human problem immediately. What we initially dismissed as a primitive species from the outer rim has become something far more dangerous than any of us anticipated." The representative from the Veltar Collective, a being of pure energy contained within a mechanical shell, flickered with agitation. "Admiral, with respect, how can a species that only achieved faster-than-light travel 2 of their decades ago pose any real threat to civilizations that have mastered the cosmos for millennia?" Admiral Zephys activated the central hologram, showing footage from the recent Battle of Kepler 442b. The images were grainy, taken from long-range surveillance drones, but they told a story that chilled every being present. Small human craft, barely larger than personal shuttles, moved through space with impossible precision. They struck at Kethmoran battle cruisers 10 times their size, exploiting weaknesses that shouldn't have been visible to such primitive sensors. "This is what humanity calls an advanced strike team," the Admiral explained, highlighting one particular human vessel. 6 individuals in a modified transport ship. They disabled 3 of our dreadnoughts and escaped before our response fleet could even lock targeting solutions. The Zif ambassador, his insectoid features twitching with disbelief, leaned forward. "Impossible. Our intelligence reports indicate humans possess no technology superior to standard galactic baseline equipment. How could 6 beings accomplish what would require a full battle squadron?" Admiral Zephys paused the recording at the moment. A human ship seemed to vanish from sensors entirely, only to reappear behind a Kethmoran destroyer. That is precisely the question that has been keeping our strategists awake for cycles. We are dealing with something unprecedented in galactic history. The truth was more disturbing than the Admiral could publicly admit. The Kethmoran Empire had encountered humans 3 months ago during what should have been a routine expansion operation. The planet they targeted, designated Earth by its inhabitants, appeared defenseless. Primitive nuclear weapons, chemical propulsion systems, and basic electromagnetic communications suggested a civilization barely ready for contact with galactic society. The initial contact had gone according to standard protocol. The Kethmoran fleet positioned itself in Earth's outer system and transmitted the standard ultimatum: submit to Imperial rule or face military consequences. Most species at humanity's technological level either surrendered immediately or mounted a brief, futile resistance before accepting the inevitable. Humanity's response had been different. Instead of the expected surrender or desperate last stand, the humans had simply acknowledged the message and requested 72 hours to prepare their response. The Kethmoran commanders, confident in their overwhelming technological superiority, had granted this request as a gesture of magnanimity. They anticipated a formal surrender ceremony that would demonstrate Imperial mercy to other potential subjects. What emerged from Earth's atmosphere 3 days later defied every expectation. The human vessels were crude by galactic standards, cobbled together from commercial spacecraft and industrial equipment. Their weapons were primitive kinetic projectiles and basic energy systems that any competent engineer could build in a standard fabrication bay. By all logical analysis, they should have been swept aside in minutes by the Kethmoran battle fleet. Instead, the humans began systematically dismantling the invasion force. They moved like they had studied Kethmoran tactics for decades rather than days. Every formation the Imperial fleet assumed, the humans seemed to anticipate. When the Kethmorans tried to use their superior firepower to overwhelm human positions, the primitive Earth ships simply weren't where the targeting computers said they should be. Admiral Zephys remembered standing on the bridge of her flagship, watching in growing horror as human craft performed maneuvers that violated everything she knew about physics and tactics. They used gravity wells as weapons, turning gas-giant gravity fields into slingshots that accelerated their ships to impossible velocities. They employed stellar radiation as camouflage, hiding in solar flares that would have fried the electronics of any civilized vessel. Most disturbing of all, they fought with a coordinated precision that suggested either telepathic communication or predictive capabilities far beyond their apparent technological level. Human units separated by millions of kilometers moved as if guided by a single mind, executing complex tactical patterns that required split-second timing across vast distances. The first human ship the Kethmarans managed to destroy had yielded disturbing intelligence. The crew of 6 had been equipped with nothing more sophisticated than basic environmental suits and handheld weapons. Their vessel's computer systems were primitive by galactic standards, using quantum processors that most civilized worlds had abandoned centuries ago. Yet somehow, these 6 beings had outmaneuvered and outfought Kethmoran crews with decades of military experience and access to the finest technology the Empire could provide. The recordings from that ship's final moments showed something that haunted Admiral Zephys. As their vessel broke apart around them, the human crew had continued fighting, not with the desperate fury of beings facing certain death, but with the calm, methodical efficiency of professionals completing a difficult but routine task. They had died attempting to relay tactical information to their compatriots, their final transmissions containing detailed analysis of Kethmaran shield frequencies and weapon patterns. The humans call these teams advanced not because of their technology, Admiral Zephys continued her briefing, but because of their tactical sophistication. Our intelligence analysis suggests that every member of these strike teams possesses combat experience equivalent to our most senior officers. They fight like veterans of 100 campaigns, despite the fact that their species has never before encountered an extraterrestrial threat. The Veltar representative's energy form pulsed with confusion. How is such experience possible? Our surveys indicate no evidence of major conflicts in their recent history. That is precisely what makes them so dangerous, the Admiral replied. We cannot predict their capabilities because we do not understand their origins. These strike teams appear to operate according to tactical doctrines we have never encountered. They use strategies that seem to anticipate our responses before we make them. The hologram shifted to show detailed analysis of human combat patterns. Mathematical models filled the air, displaying probability matrices and tactical flowcharts that grew more complex with each passing moment. The data painted a picture of an enemy that learned and adapted at an impossible rate. During the 3-day battle for Earth's orbital space, the Kethmaran fleet had observed human tactics evolving in real time. Maneuvers that failed in the first engagement were modified and perfected by the second. Weapons that proved ineffective against Kethmaran shields were quickly replaced with alternatives specifically designed to exploit newly discovered weaknesses. By the end of the first day, human strike teams were using captured Kethmaran technology against its original owners. They seemed to understand alien systems intuitively, reprogramming captured equipment with modifications that improved its effectiveness beyond original specifications. Kethmoran engineers later admitted they couldn't understand how the human modifications worked, despite being built from their own technology. The most disturbing aspect, Admiral Zephys continued, is their apparent disregard for conventional tactical doctrine. They use strategies that should result in mutual annihilation, yet somehow emerge victorious. They sacrifice ships and crews to achieve objectives that appear meaningless, only to reveal the true purpose of their actions hours or days later. The recording showed a human strike team deliberately ramming their ship into a Kethmaran supply depot. The apparent suicide attack had seemed like desperate revenge, until Kethmoran engineers realized the humans had somehow contaminated their entire supply chain with a computer virus that took weeks to detect and months to fully purge. The psychological impact on Kethmoran forces had been devastating. Crews that had conquered dozens of worlds found themselves hesitating before engaging human targets. The humans' willingness to accept casualties that would break the morale of any civilized force made them unpredictable in ways that terrified experienced officers. "Are you suggesting," the Zif ambassador asked carefully, "that these humans are somehow more naturally suited to warfare than species with millennia of military tradition?" Admiral Zephys paused before answering. The question touched on something that violated everything the galactic community believed about civilization and progress. Advanced societies were supposed to move beyond the primitive brutality of their origins. Warfare became increasingly ritualized and limited as species developed more sophisticated technologies and social structures. Humanity appeared to represent the opposite of this natural evolution. They had developed space travel and advanced computing while retaining something that more civilized species had lost or never possessed, an instinctive understanding of violence that made them terrifyingly effective in combat. "Our xenopsychologists believe," the Admiral said slowly, "that humanity may represent a unique evolutionary path. Most intelligent species develop advanced technology as an alternative to physical conflict. We build better tools to avoid having to fight. Humans appear to have developed advanced technology as an enhancement to their existing combat capabilities." The implications of this statement rippled through the chamber. If humans use technology to become better at fighting rather than to avoid fighting altogether, then they represented something unprecedented in galactic civilization. They were the first species to achieve spaceflight while retaining and refining their capacity for violence. The hologram displayed comparative analysis between human strike team operations and historical military campaigns from across the galaxy. The patterns were unmistakable. Human tactics resembled those of the most successful military forces in galactic history, but refined and perfected beyond anything previously recorded. Furthermore, Admiral Zephys continued, "Our linguistic analysis of intercepted human communications suggests that they possess extensive theoretical knowledge of warfare at scales far beyond their current technological capabilities. They discuss concepts and strategies applicable to conflicts involving thousands of star systems and millions of ships, despite having never fought a war larger than their own planet." This revelation had shaken Kethmoran intelligence analysts to their core. Human military databases, partially decoded from captured equipment, contained theoretical frameworks for conducting warfare across galactic distances. They had strategies for conflicts involving resources and populations that existed nowhere in human space. It was as if they had been preparing for galactic war for generations before they even knew other intelligent species existed. The evidence suggested that humanity's advanced strike teams were not merely talented individuals, but representatives of a species-wide military tradition that had been refined over thousands of years of constant conflict. Even their peaceful activities showed evidence of this underlying martial culture. Human commercial vessels were designed with defensive capabilities that most species reserved for military craft. Their civilian infrastructure incorporated redundancies and hardening that suggested they expected to continue operating under attack. "The question before this council," Admiral Zephys concluded, "is how to respond to a species that appears to view warfare as a natural and ongoing aspect of existence rather than an unfortunate necessity to be avoided whenever possible." The chamber remained silent as delegates processed this information. Humanity had emerged as a threat unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. They couldn't be conquered through superior technology because they somehow found ways to turn advanced equipment against its creators. They couldn't be intimidated by overwhelming force because they seemed to regard suicidal odds as routine challenges rather than impossible obstacles. Most disturbing of all, the initial engagement with Earth had revealed that human advanced strike teams were not elite special forces units, as the galactic community had assumed. They were apparently standard military formations that any human colony could produce given sufficient time and resources. If Earth could field dozens of such teams from a single planet, what would happen when humanity began expanding across multiple star systems? The recording ended with the final moments of the Battle of Earth, showing Kethmoran forces retreating from the system after losing nearly half their fleet to an enemy that shouldn't have been able to threaten a single destroyer. Human strike teams pursued the withdrawing forces to the edge of the system, their primitive ships somehow keeping pace with vessels designed for interstellar travel. Admiral Zephys looked around the council chamber, noting the expressions of fear and uncertainty on faces that had never before questioned galactic military supremacy. Honorable delegates, we face a choice. We can attempt to contain humanity within their current territory and hope they remain focused on internal development, or we can take action before they spread beyond our ability to control. The silence that followed was broken by an emergency communication alert. A new transmission was incoming from the edge of human space marked with the highest priority encryption. Admiral Zephys activated the message, expecting a routine intelligence update from the monitoring stations positioned around Earth's solar system. Instead, the chamber filled with the image of a human woman in simple military fatigues, speaking directly to the council from what appeared to be the bridge of a spacecraft. The technological implications of this transmission hit every delegate simultaneously. Somehow, humanity had not only detected the hidden monitoring stations, but had captured one intact and learned to operate its communication systems. "Greetings, Galactic Council," the human said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "My name is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Advanced Strike Force. I believe you've been discussing us." Commander Sarah Chen adjusted her position in the command chair, aware that every subtle movement was being analyzed by alien intelligence systems light years away. The captured Kethmoran communication relay hummed quietly behind her, its crystalline matrices pulsing with translated signals from the Galactic Council's emergency session. Around her, the bridge of the TNS Defiant operated with the quiet efficiency that had become humanity's signature throughout their brief but explosive introduction to galactic politics. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres reported from the tactical station, his fingers dancing across controls that mixed human engineering with reverse-engineered alien technology, were maintaining stable signal connection to the council chamber. Their security protocols are more sophisticated than initially assessed, but nothing our systems can't handle. Sarah nodded, keeping her expression neutral for the benefit of their audience. The truth was that breaking into the Galactic Council's most secure communication networks had taken her team less than 6 hours. The alien cybersecurity was built around the assumption that only authorized galactic-level civilizations would have access to the necessary technology and knowledge. They had never considered that a species might achieve the same results through pure analytical determination and creative problem-solving. "Signal quality is excellent," Chief Petty Officer Kim added from the communications console. "We're getting real-time feeds from at least 12 different observation points around their council chamber. Their internal security systems are actually helping us by providing multiple camera angles." The irony wasn't lost on Sarah. The same advanced surveillance technology that the aliens used to monitor their own meetings was now providing humanity with unprecedented intelligence about galactic leadership. She had watched Admiral Zephys's entire briefing, taking careful note of every tactical assessment and strategic conclusion the Kethmoran officer had presented. The aliens weren't wrong in their analysis. Human advanced strike teams were indeed dangerous in ways that violated galactic military doctrine. What they failed to understand was that this danger wasn't an accident or an unexpected evolutionary quirk. It was the deliberate result of thousands of years of human military development, refined through countless conflicts and distilled into tactical principles that remained effective regardless of technological level. "Commander," Dr. Martinez spoke up from the science station, where she was monitoring alien reaction patterns through behavioral analysis algorithms. Their physiological responses suggest genuine fear rather than mere tactical concern. The Keth Moran Admiral's stress indicators are off the charts, and several council members are showing signs of panic. Sarah wasn't surprised. The Battle of Earth had been designed to send a very specific message to any galactic power considering aggressive action against humanity. The message was simple. Attacking Earth would cost more than any potential benefit could justify. The fact that they had achieved this result while suffering minimal casualties only made the demonstration more effective. "Any response from the Council yet?" Sarah asked. "Negative, ma'am. They appear to be processing the implications of our communication breakthrough. Several delegates are requesting private consultation with their respective governments." That was exactly the response humanity had anticipated. The advanced strike teams hadn't just been created to win battles. They had been designed to win wars by convincing potential enemies that military conflict with humanity would be prohibitively expensive. Every human tactical doctrine emphasized the importance of psychological warfare alongside physical combat capabilities. The aliens didn't realize that they were looking at the end result of a species that had been continuously refining its approach to warfare for millennia. Human history was essentially a catalog of military innovations, strategic developments, and tactical evolutions that had been tested in countless conflicts across every possible environment. Other species had moved beyond warfare as they developed advanced technology. Humanity had simply become more sophisticated in their approach to it. "Dr. Martinez," Sarah said, "what's your assessment of their current decision-making process?" The xenopsychologist pulled up a complex display showing behavioral analysis patterns from the council chamber. "They're caught between two equally unacceptable alternatives. Direct military action against humanity has proven ineffective and costly, but allowing us to expand unchecked represents an existential threat to the current galactic order." Sarah smiled slightly. "Which means they'll try to find a third option." "Exactly. Most likely some form of negotiated containment or diplomatic isolation. They'll attempt to limit our expansion through economic pressure and political maneuvering rather than direct confrontation." This was precisely the scenario that human strategic planners had prepared for. The advanced strike teams had been designed not just as military units, but as diplomatic tools that could operate in the complex political environment of galactic civilization. Every team member possessed extensive training in xenopsychology, interspecies communication protocols, and galactic law. "Lieutenant Torres," Sarah ordered, "bring up the tactical display. Show them what they're really dealing with." The holographic projector in the council chamber activated, controlled remotely through the compromised communication system. A three-dimensional star map appeared in the center of the room, showing the current disposition of human forces throughout known space. What the aliens saw challenged every assumption they had made about humanity's capabilities. The map revealed that advanced strike teams weren't concentrated around Earth, as the Galactic Intelligence Services had assumed. Instead, they were distributed throughout a network of hidden bases and mobile platforms that extended far beyond the borders of human space. Teams were positioned to strike at critical infrastructure targets throughout Keth Moran territory and had established observation posts around major galactic trade routes. "This is impossible," came Admiral Zephyr's voice through the communication relay. "Our surveys show no evidence of human expansion beyond their home system." Sarah activated the transmitter, her image appearing once again in the council chamber. "Admiral, your surveys were designed to detect conventional expansion patterns, permanent colonies, terraforming operations, massive infrastructure development. We chose a different approach. The tactical display shifted, showing the true scope of human strategic deployment. Rather than building obvious military installations, humanity had established a network of concealed forward operating bases using converted asteroids, abandoned alien facilities, and camouflaged space platforms. Each position was designed to remain undetectable to standard galactic survey methods while providing advanced strike teams with the resources they needed to operate independently for extended periods. Human strategic doctrine, Sarah explained to the stunned council, emphasizes flexibility and operational independence. Our teams don't require massive supply lines or permanent bases. They're trained to operate in any environment using whatever resources are available, including technology captured from hostile forces. This was the aspect of human military capability that most disturbed galactic observers. Advanced strike teams could maintain operational effectiveness even when completely cut off from human space. They carried fabrication equipment that could produce ammunition, spare parts, and even entire weapon systems using raw materials found in any star system. More importantly, they possessed the technical knowledge necessary to maintain and upgrade captured alien technology for human use. Furthermore, Sarah continued, every engagement provides us with valuable intelligence about galactic military capabilities. We study your tactics, analyze your technology, and develop countermeasures for future conflicts. The Battle of Earth wasn't just a defensive action. It was a learning experience that has significantly enhanced our operational effectiveness. The council chamber erupted in alarmed voices as delegates realized the implications. Humanity wasn't just defending itself, they were actively gathering intelligence for future military operations. Every alien force that engaged human strike teams was inadvertently providing humanity with detailed information about galactic military capabilities and weaknesses. Dr. Martinez leaned over to Sarah's console. Commander, we're detecting increased communication traffic between council members and their home governments. Several species are requesting immediate military assessments of their own defensive capabilities. This was the intended effect. By revealing the extent of human strategic preparation, Sarah was forcing each galactic power to reconsider their own security posture. Species that had never considered humanity a threat were now wondering if human strike teams were already operating in their territory. Admiral Zephys, Sarah addressed the Kethmoran officer directly. I want to be clear about humanity's intentions. We have no desire for territorial conquest or resource exploitation. Our expansion patterns are designed purely for defensive purposes. However, we will respond to any aggressive action with overwhelming force. The statement was carefully crafted to offer reassurance while simultaneously demonstrating capability. Humanity didn't want to rule the galaxy, they simply wanted to ensure that no one else could rule them. The advanced strike teams existed to make any attempt at subjugating humanity prohibitively expensive. What are your terms? The Veltar representative asked, its energy form flickering with agitation. Sarah had been waiting for this question. Humanity seeks formal recognition as a sovereign galactic power with the right to expand within our designated sphere of influence. In exchange, we offer technology-sharing agreements and mutual defense pacts with any species willing to respect our territorial integrity. The offer was more generous than many council members had expected. Rather than demanding tribute or territory, humanity was proposing a standard diplomatic arrangement. The implication was clear. Treat us as equals, and we can be valuable allies. Attempt to dominate us, and we will become your most dangerous enemies. The technology-sharing agreements would include access to human military innovations, asked the Zif ambassador, his insectoid features twitching with interest. Limited access, Sarah clarified. We're prepared to share defensive technologies and tactical doctrines that would be useful against common threats. However, our most advanced military capabilities will remain classified. This was a crucial distinction. Humanity was willing to help other species defend themselves, but they weren't going to provide potential enemies with the tools necessary to threaten human security. The advanced strike teams would maintain their technological and tactical advantages while helping to stabilize galactic politics through selective cooperation. "What assurance do we have," Admiral Zephys interjected, "that humanity won't use these strike teams for offensive operations against peaceful galactic civilizations?" Sarah's expression became serious. "The same assurance you have, that any advanced military force won't be misused. Our strategic doctrine emphasizes defensive operations, but we reserve the right to preemptive action if we detect imminent threats to human security." The honesty of this answer was more reassuring than any diplomatic evasion would have been. Sarah was acknowledging that human strike teams could indeed be used offensively, but only in response to genuine threats. This was the same policy that every major galactic power followed with their own military forces. "Dr. Martinez," Sarah said quietly, "what's their psychological assessment showing now?" "Stress levels are decreasing across the board. They're starting to view this as a negotiation rather than an existential crisis. The offer of technology sharing has generated significant interest, particularly among the smaller council members. This was exactly the response human strategists had predicted. By demonstrating overwhelming military capability, followed by reasonable diplomatic offers, humanity was forcing the galactic community to recognize them as legitimate participants in galactic politics, rather than primitive threats to be eliminated or contained. "Lieutenant Torres," Sarah ordered, "transmit the formal diplomatic proposal." A comprehensive document appeared on every council member's personal display system, outlining humanity's proposed framework for galactic integration. The proposal included detailed specifications for technology sharing agreements, territorial recognition protocols, and mutual defense arrangements. More importantly, it included specific guarantees about the limitation of human military expansion and the defensive nature of advanced strike team operations. The document represented months of work by human diplomatic and strategic planning teams. Every clause had been carefully crafted to offer maximum benefits to potential galactic allies while maintaining human security interests. The proposal was designed to be attractive enough that most council members would prefer negotiation to continued military confrontation. "This proposal will require extensive consultation with our respective governments," the Veltar representative announced. "We cannot provide immediate responses to such comprehensive diplomatic arrangements." "Understood," Sarah replied. "Humanity is prepared to wait for careful consideration of these terms. However, we should mention that our strategic deployment will continue during the negotiation period." Additional advanced strike teams are being positioned throughout the galaxy to ensure our security during these discussions. The statement served as a gentle reminder that humanity's military capabilities were continuing to grow even while diplomatic negotiations proceeded. Any attempt to use the negotiation period to prepare military action against humanity would face an increasingly well-prepared and strategically positioned human force. As the council session began to conclude, Sarah reflected on the broader implications of this moment. Humanity was transitioning from an unknown primitive species to a recognized galactic power in a matter of months. The advanced strike teams had served their intended purpose, demonstrating that humanity possessed both the capability and the determination to defend itself against any threat the galaxy could present. But more importantly, they had proven that human tactical innovation and strategic thinking could compete with civilizations that had been developing military doctrine for thousands of years longer than humanity had existed. The galaxy was about to discover that humans brought something unique to interstellar relations: the ability to find creative solutions to seemingly impossible military challenges. The transmission ended with Sarah's final message to the Council. Honorable delegates, humanity looks forward to productive diplomatic relations with all species willing to respect our sovereignty. For those who choose otherwise, our advanced strike teams will be ready to demonstrate why the cosmos has learned to fear Terran veterans. 6 months after the emergency Galactic Council session, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood before the assembled representatives of 47 different species in the newly constructed Galactic Cooperation Center on Kepler Station. The neutral facility had been built specifically to accommodate the unprecedented diplomatic arrangements that had emerged from humanity's explosive introduction to galactic politics. Around her, beings that had once viewed humans as primitive upstarts now listened with the careful attention reserved for equals and potential allies. The transformation in galactic attitudes toward humanity had been remarkable to observe. Species that had initially dismissed the advanced strike teams as lucky primitives now spoke of Terran tactical doctrine with genuine respect. Military academies throughout the galaxy had begun incorporating human strategic principles into their curriculum, and several major powers had requested formal military exchange programs to study human operational methods firsthand. Honorable delegates, Ambassador Vasquez began, her voice carrying clearly through the sophisticated translation systems that had been upgraded to handle the nuances of human communication. I am pleased to report that the first year of the Terran Integration Protocol has exceeded all expectations for mutual benefit and galactic stability. The statistics displayed on the chamber's central hologram told the story of humanity's rapid integration into galactic civilization. Trade agreements had been established with 32 different species, resulting in technology transfers that benefited all parties involved. Human manufacturing techniques had improved production efficiency across multiple industries, while alien technologies had accelerated human development by centuries in key scientific fields. More importantly, the presence of advanced strike teams throughout the galaxy had created an unprecedented period of peace. Pirates and raiders who had once operated freely in remote star systems now faced the possibility of encountering human military units specifically trained for anti-piracy operations. Several criminal organizations had simply ceased operations rather than risk confrontation with forces that had defeated regular military fleets. Admiral Zephys, now serving as the Kethmoran Empire's official liaison to the Terran Integration Committee, stepped forward to provide her government's assessment of the new arrangement. The crystalline being's posture showed none of the tension and fear that had characterized her previous interactions with human representatives. The Kethmoran Empire wishes to formally acknowledge the positive impact of human advanced strike teams on regional security, Admiral Zephys announced. Piracy in our border regions has decreased by 93% since human forces began conducting joint patrols with our security fleets. More significantly, the tactical innovations shared by human officers have improved our own military effectiveness by measurable factors. This admission represented a complete reversal from the Kethmoran position 6 months earlier. The empire that had once viewed humanity as an existential threat now openly credited human military expertise with enhancing their own security. The transformation had been accomplished through careful demonstration of human capabilities combined with generous sharing of tactical knowledge that helped former enemies become more effective defenders of their own territory. Commander Jackson Webb, current leader of Advanced Strike Team Alpha, stood at attention beside the ambassador's podium. His presence served as a subtle reminder that human military capabilities remained as formidable as ever, even while humanity pursued diplomatic solutions to galactic challenges. The decorations on his uniform included commendations from 3 different alien governments for services rendered during recent anti-piracy operations. Commander Webb, Ambassador Vasquez said, "Would you please provide the security assessment for the assembled delegates?" Webb stepped forward with the measured confidence that had become characteristic of human military representatives in diplomatic settings. His bearing suggested competence without aggression, professionalism without arrogance. Every gesture had been carefully calculated to reassure potential allies while warning potential enemies. "Honorable delegates," Webb began, "our distributed strike teams continue to monitor galactic security conditions from strategic positions throughout known space. I am pleased to report that we have detected no major threats to interstellar stability or peaceful commerce during the past quarter." The simple statement carried profound implications. Human strike teams had essentially become the galaxy's early warning system for military threats. Their advanced sensors and analytical capabilities, combined with their strategic positioning throughout galactic space, meant that any significant military buildup or aggressive preparation would be detected and reported immediately. Furthermore, Webb continued, our intelligence sharing agreements have enabled us to assist local authorities in preventing 6 separate terrorist attacks, neutralize 2 pirate fleets, and mediate 3 territorial disputes before they could escalate to military conflict. Each of these successes had strengthened humanity's reputation as a stabilizing force in galactic politics. Rather than being viewed as dangerous wildcards, advanced strike teams were now seen as valuable peacekeeping assets that could respond rapidly to emerging threats. Their willingness to share intelligence and tactical expertise had transformed them from feared enemies into trusted allies. The Veltar representative, its energy form pulsing with satisfaction, addressed the chamber. The collective wishes to emphasize the unprecedented nature of our current security cooperation with human forces. Never in galactic history have we achieved such effective coordination between species with such different technological and cultural backgrounds. This was perhaps the most significant achievement of the Terran Integration Protocol. Humanity had proven that military effectiveness didn't require cultural dominance or technological supremacy. Human strike teams routinely operated alongside alien forces, adapting their tactics to complement different species' natural abilities and technological preferences. Dr. Sarah Kim, the lead xenopsychologist for the Terran Integration Program, had studied this phenomenon extensively. Her research suggested that humanity's unique approach to warfare actually made them more effective partners than traditional galactic military forces. Human adaptability and creative problem-solving enabled them to find solutions that worked for any species they encountered. "Dr. Kim," Ambassador Vasquez called, "would you share your findings about interspecies military cooperation?" Dr. Kim approached the podium with a datapad containing months of research into human-alien military partnerships. Her work had become required reading at military academies throughout the galaxy, providing the theoretical framework that explained why human tactical doctrine was so effective in multi-species operations. "Honorable delegates," Dr. Kim began, "our analysis indicates that human military effectiveness derives not from superior technology or physical capabilities, but from cognitive flexibility and adaptive learning patterns. Human strike teams modify their operational methods in real time based on the specific strengths and limitations of their alien partners. The holographic display showed examples from recent joint operations, demonstrating how human teams had adapted their tactics to work with species ranging from the energy-based Veltar to the insectoid Zif to the crystalline Kethmoran. In each case, human officers had found ways to enhance their alien partners' natural abilities while compensating for their limitations. More importantly, Dr. Kim continued, human strategic doctrine emphasizes outcome-based planning rather than method-based planning. While most galactic military forces develop tactics around specific technological capabilities, humans focus on achieving objectives regardless of the tools available. This makes them uniquely effective at improvising solutions to unexpected challenges. This insight had revolutionized galactic military thinking. Traditional tactical doctrines assumed that specific technologies would be available and that enemy forces would respond in predictable ways. Human doctrine assumed that plans would fail and that success required the ability to adapt to changing circumstances using whatever resources happened to be available. The XIF ambassador, his mandibles clicking with approval, stood to address the assembly. The XIF Concordat has incorporated human tactical principles into our own military training programs. The results have exceeded our most optimistic projections. Our forces are now capable of operating effectively in environments that would have been impossible for them to handle using traditional methods. Similar transformations had occurred throughout galactic space. Species that had been trapped in traditional thinking patterns were discovering new capabilities through exposure to human approaches to problem solving. Military forces that had been specialized for specific environments were learning to operate effectively in any situation. Ambassador Vasquez smiled as she observed the genuine enthusiasm in the chamber. The initial fear and suspicion that had characterized humanity's first contact with galactic civilization had been replaced by eager cooperation and mutual respect. The advanced strike teams that had once been viewed as terrifying threats were now seen as valuable allies and trusted partners. "I believe," she said, "that we can confidently say that the human integration into galactic civilization has been an unqualified success. Our species brings unique capabilities to the galactic community, while benefiting enormously from the knowledge and technology that other species have generously shared." The transformation hadn't been entirely one-sided. Human technology had advanced by centuries through access to galactic science and engineering. Human medicine had been revolutionized through contact with species that had solved health problems humanity didn't even know existed. Human agriculture had been transformed through cultivation techniques developed by species with millions of years of experience in terraforming and ecosystem management. But perhaps the most significant change had been in humanity's understanding of their own place in the cosmos. The species that had once been confined to a single planet now operated throughout galactic space as equal partners in a civilization that spanned thousands of star systems and included dozens of intelligent species. Commander Webb returned to the podium for his final remarks. "Honorable delegates, I want to emphasize that the advanced strike teams remain committed to their defensive mission. Our forces exist to protect the innocent and maintain galactic stability, not to project human power or advance human interests at the expense of other species." This commitment had been tested repeatedly over the past year. Human forces had intervened in conflicts where humanity had no direct interests, purely to prevent civilian casualties or protect weaker species from aggressive neighbors. They had shared advanced military technology with potential rivals, trusting that mutual security benefits outweighed any tactical advantages that secrecy might provide. However, Webb continued with a slight hardening of his expression, "we remain fully prepared to defend human interests and our galactic allies against any threat that may emerge. Our strategic capabilities have continued to develop, and our operational readiness has never been higher." The warning was polite, but unmistakable. Humanity's integration into galactic civilization had been accompanied by continued military development and strategic expansion. Any species considering aggressive action against humanity or its allies would face opponents who had spent the past year studying galactic warfare and developing countermeasures against every known military technology. The final speaker was Admiral Kethvar of the Rigelian Defense Force, representing the first species to formally request advanced strike team training for their own military units. The tall, graceful being had personally observed human tactical methods during recent joint operations and had become one of humanity's strongest advocates in the galactic military community. "Honored colleagues," Admiral Kethvar announced, I speak for many when I say that contact with human forces has fundamentally changed our understanding of what is possible in military operations. The tactical innovations and strategic insights that human officers have shared with us have made all our forces more effective and more capable of protecting galactic peace. The Admiral paused, looking around the chamber at representatives who had initially feared human military capabilities. But more than their tactical expertise, what impresses me most about human forces is their commitment to principles over power. In every operation I have observed, human strike teams have prioritized the protection of civilians and the preservation of peace over tactical advantage or strategic gain. This observation had been echoed by military leaders throughout the galaxy. Human forces operated according to ethical principles that prioritized humanitarian concerns even when such priorities complicated their tactical situations. They had repeatedly accepted greater casualties and operational difficulties in order to avoid civilian harm or environmental damage. As the formal session concluded, Ambassador Vasquez reflected on the remarkable transformation that had occurred in galactic civilization over the past year. A species that had been completely unknown 18 months earlier was now an integral part of galactic security and diplomatic structures. The advanced strike teams that had once been feared as harbingers of chaos were now celebrated as guardians of peace. But perhaps the most significant change was in how other species viewed the possibility of military conflict. The presence of human forces throughout the galaxy had made aggressive action prohibitively risky for any potential aggressor. Not because humanity would necessarily intervene directly, but because human tactical doctrine and strategic principles were now being used by dozens of different species. Any aggressor would face opponents who had been trained by the same beings who had defeated the Kethmoran Empire with primitive technology and creative tactics. The galaxy had become a more peaceful place, not because humanity had imposed peace through force, but because humanity had shared the knowledge and skills necessary for every species to defend themselves effectively. The advanced strike teams had achieved their ultimate objective, creating a galactic civilization where aggressive expansion was too costly and too risky for any rational actor to attempt. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, many pausing to speak privately with human representatives about ongoing cooperation projects, Ambassador Vasquez allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had not only survived first contact with galactic civilization, they had fundamentally improved it. The cosmos had indeed learned to fear Terran veterans, but not as conquerors or destroyers. They feared them as the beings who had made galactic peace not just possible, but inevitable through the simple expedient of making war too expensive for anyone to afford. In a galaxy where every species now possessed access to human tactical doctrine and strategic thinking, only those committed to peace could hope to survive and prosper. The advanced strike teams had completed their mission not through victory in battle, but through victory in peace.